There's something timeless about a bottle. It holds more than liquid. It carries a place, a season, a memory, a celebration, a quiet moment, a story waiting to be opened. Welcome to Bottled Stories. Hello again, everybody. Welcome back to another Bottled Stories podcast. I'm your host, Tim Tibbetts, and with me, as always, is the right hand, Rebecca. Today, we are going to discuss one of our absolute favorites, and we say it every week. Every week
they're all our favorites.
This is the point. This is the reason why our portfolio is what it is because of the quality of the products that we like, the philosophies of the people who make it, the people themselves and our relationships with them, and nothing epitomizes that anymore than Pichler-Krutzler. We are here on the edges of the Danube River in Lower Austria, in the Wachau Valley, one of the most famous wine regions for extraordinary white wine. Probably, in our opinion, the best place in the world for white wine.
Great food wines.
Excellent.
Really great food wines.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, a lot of people know, a lot of people think of Germany when you talk about Riesling. And yes, there is some extraordinary stuff in Germany, but for my money, for what I want out of a wine, I'm picking Austria every time.
And I think a misconception often is when you say Riesling, people think it's sweet.
Yeah. And here we're talking about dry as a
Super
bone, laser focused, razor sharp, high acidity, tons of minerality.
And an amazing expression of where it's coming from.
Absolutely. And so in this podcast today, we're going to talk a little bit about the family, why, who they are, what they do, and why they make wines the way they do, and a little bit of the history as well. The story is really cool. Back in the 80s, Elizabeth Pichler's father was named by Robert Parker as the greatest white wine producer in the world, with his at the time, the FX Pichler M series, which stood for monumental.
And we've had the opportunity to have some of those.
Many times,
They are
pretty monumental. And at the time, in the 80s, Robert Parker likened them to any great Grand Cru Montrachet that was being produced in Burgundy. And that's high praise for, at the time, especially in the 80s, an unknown wine region. And what it was known for was not a positive thing.
They had a huge obstacle to overcome.
Exactly.
That was early 80s,
That was
right?
in the early 80s. And they had to figure out how to overcome bad press. And they had a problem where some people...
I think misbelieved.
Yes, it wasn't actually what they thought it was, but people did die from consuming some wines. But they had thought in the initial thing
chemical breakdown
that someone had put antifreeze into the wines in order to boost alcohol levels. Right. And it wasn't actually that. That's not what actually happened. There was an issue, but the issue was more of unfinished processes that ended up in a bottle and then ended up changing in a way that became toxic. And anyway, long story short,
they had some work
Austria's
to do.
wine industry had a lot of work to do in order to overcome the bad press that came out in the early 80s.
So when Pichler came out with M and it started good press reviews, that was
a huge part of it.
So
So in that time period, the big names of the region, and they are still the big names of the region, were FX Pichler, Franz Herzberger, and Knoll. Those are the three big names of Austrian wine at the time. They are still probably the three biggest names in Austrian wine. And when FX retired, he left all the duties of running the winery to his son Lucas, Elizabeth's brother.
Elder.
And so when Elizabeth wanted to get involved she kind of basically was, if she was going to do it, she was either going to have to work with Lucas or she was going to have to go out and do it on her own. She ended up getting married to an amazing dude, Erick Krutzler, his family is also very famous in Austrian wine, but for a completely different reason. They're actually from the southern part of Austria in the Burgenland, and they're very famous for making red wines, particularly Blaufränkisch, which is, really the signature red grape of Austria. And his family makes really extraordinary versions of Blaufränkisch. We'll come back to the family connection and Blaufränkisch itself and why it's important to this winery. But when the two of them married, they ended up forming their own winery, literally just down the road. Probably could throw a stone and hit to their original winery. Not the current one is a little bit farther away, but
even though we ended up getting lost through those field roads, the GPS was not our friend.
No.
So you can throw a stone.
It actually took us, the GPS, if you ever put, if you go for Pichler-Krutzler and you put it in the GPS, it's actually going to take you to their house, not to their winery. So, if you knock on the door there, you might be surprised because FX is probably going to open the door and say hello. But he doesn't speak English, so make sure that you actually can speak a little German, or he probably going to throw you out in your ear. But anyway, back to the story. They started this, I think 2007 was the first vintage of Pichler-Krutzler wines. And I remember we had some of those early wines.
Bernstein.
And they were just absolutely spectacular at the time for the money. And there's still very good value here, although the prices have rose significantly as the wines from the Wachau become much more popular and much more in demand. And also their wines are so good that they are all in very, very high demand. So the price kind of reflects it. But at the same time, we're talking about some of the most difficult wine to make in the world. Those of you who have ever been to the Wachau Valley, you will know what I'm talking about. And I'm quickly going to put up a quick slide here so that you can actually see. I've got some really cool pictures from our trips. And I'll show you exactly what we're talking about, how steep these slopes are and all of these terraced vineyard sites and how difficult it is to actually do that. And so as you see these slides, you have all of these vineyard sites, super terraced. All of this has to be done by hand. There can be no machinery in any of this because obviously you're in the side of a mountain and it is very, very treacherous and very, very difficult. So it takes far longer to produce these wines than it does to do like flatland wines. Flatland wines are much more inexpensive to make because they can harvest a lot more grapes at one time, reducing the labor costs that are involved in producing these wines. So in the Wachau, we talked about Knoll and Herzberger, and there's a bunch of others. There's a lot of great producers in this region, but those two specifically lead into the next topic. And the next topic is what we call the denomination of origin of the Wachau Valley, which is called Linie Wachau. And Pichler-Krutzler is not a member. For that member, neither is FX Pichler, but for different reasons.
Right.
And we'll talk about that when we talk about FX in another video. But this one, these guys are actually not members of the Linie Wachau simply because Eric still has wines being produced in Burgenland. So he can't be a member of Linie Wachau because he's a member of the Burgenland
Can't have
denomination.
2 passports.
Yeah, exactly. No passport, no 2 passports. But what it does do, and it's a fantastic thing, is it gives them freedom. So they can do things that no one else can do because they're bound by the denominational rules. Whereas these guys can do all kinds of things. They have a whole series of wines, Kellerberg S, Wunderberg, Fast 43, and there's one other, I can't remember off the top of my head. These are all wines that are being made using experimental methods, long aging, skin contact, everything that they can do in order to try and combat the effect of climate change on these grapes.
Understanding that they need to do something for future wines.
Exactly.
They're starting now,
So they've started.
so that they have their
Yeah, and they've been doing it for a
Yeah.
while now. And those wines are really, really interesting and super, super cool. But they because of the small production, the extremely high quality and limited release, they are very, very expensive. But they are allowed to do all kinds of things because they're not a member of the DO. So they can do whatever they want, which is super cool. But one of the cool things about Wachau when you're a consumer is that you kind of understand what you're getting before you actually buy the bottle just by reading the label. And on the label of a wine from the Wachau, it will have 3 different terms. One of the 3 different terms will be listed on the label, so you'll know what you're getting. And the 3 terms are Steinfeder, Federspiel, and Schmaragd. And most people who know Austrian wine, you'll know those terms. So they're all basically graded based on alcohol by volume in the bottle at the time of production.
And this is sort of based on ripeness level, right?
Yeah.
Because the riper the grape, the higher the alcoholic content, the potential for alcoholic content is higher.
Yeah, and it's kind of Austria's version of the predicate system that they have in Germany.
Exactly.
And Germany is the same. But Germany's ripeness levels tends to be more about residual sugar and less about sugar at time of harvest. And so this system, the Steinfeder, Federspiel, and Schmaragd system, was talking about how much alcohol is in at the final part of the production method. And so you have Steinfeder, which are very low alcohol wines. They're fresh wines, very light, very fruity, and they have under 11.5% alcohol. And then Federspiel wines are from 11.5 to 12.5% alcohol, and Schmaragd wines are wines that have more than 12.5% alcohol. So it's kind of weird thinking that the quality level of a wine is actually defined by its alcohol. As a purchaser, as someone who buys wine in enormous quantities, I have really made a conscious effort to buy lower alcohol wines for 2 reasons. Number one, that's just the way the current market is going. People want less alcohol wines. No one's looking for big, bombastic 15% alcohol wines anymore. Number two is I find those wines are much more elegant and they are much more expressive of A, fruit, and B, soil. So I'm getting much more of a definitive version of where it comes from and what it is with the lower alcohol. So the alcohol it's carrying it, it's giving it structure, it's giving it body, but it's not the only thing that you're getting. You're getting the whole picture, and that's why I like lower alcohol wines.
And you can drink.
And you can drink more. Exactly. This is a really key thing. The cool thing about these guys, that doesn't matter. They can have whatever the hell they want because they don't have to abide by those rules. But one thing that they will do in order to help you is the closures. So on my right, we have a screw top or Stelvin closure. This is kind of indicating a fresher style wine, a wine that should be drank now or within the next 5 years. Although these wines do age incredibly well as well. They're really fantastic. I actually like them with a little bit of age on them. But they will not last as long as one of the wines that have a cork closure. Now, the cork closure wines tend to always have a little bit more alcohol. Like, for example, this on the right, this is a Riesling from Inderwand, and it's a 12.5%. And then on the left, you have Kellerberg, one of the most famous vineyard sites, the rarest wines in the Wachau Valley, coming from Kellerberg. And this is 13% alcohol. Now, really, like I said, alcohol is only important as long as it's in balance with everything else that's going on in the wine. And so for me, this wine at 12% or 12.5% should be, under the technicalities of Viognier Wachau, should be a Schmaragd wine. But in its winemaking process, it was done in steel tank and not inside of an oak barrel. So These bigger wines, they spend a full year, usually a full year or 10 to 11 months inside of Austrian stocking or barrels. So we're talking about, it's like a white oak, very, very fine grain. It does not get any toast usually, so it doesn't give you the classic woodiness that you get from other barrels. So there's no vanilla, there's no spice,
But it
there's
gives
none
you
of that.
the generosity
But
of the aging.
exactly, that's a perfect term. It gives you the generosity. It builds structure. It builds like
Allows it to aerate a
viscosity.
bit. Yeah.
You have some of this micro oxidization that happens that gives it some developmental things that are really gorgeous in those wines. So it's really key that when you're dealing with Pichler-Krutzler, and if you come into the shop, if you ever come in to Seagate Wines in Freeport in the Bahamas, you will see about 70 different Pichler-Krutzler wines
And
from
they all look the same.
various vintages from all
At
over the
first
place.
glance, they look the same.
And they all, except for two, all of them look exactly the same. So the labels are all identical. The only difference is at the bottom in smaller print, you will learn the grape variety, whether it's Grüner Veltliner or Riesling, which are the two prominent grapes of Austria. Pichler-Krutzler is one of the few wineries, actually, that also makes a Pinot Blanc. And we do have the Pinot Blanc as well. But really, it's Grüner Veltliner, and it is Riesling, and it is in the different forms based on vineyard. So at the bottom, you'll also see what the vineyard site is. In this case, this is Kellerberg. So when we talk about these vineyard sites, there are dozens of them throughout the Wachau, but just to name a couple that are the most important for this, Kellerberg, obviously. Kellerberg is an original site of monastic heritage, so it is near the church. At the bottom of the hill, there is a church, or an old church ruin, I guess, that is there, and there's another vineyard site called Klostersatz, which is at the bottom of the hill of Kellerberg. And that Satz place, as we've discussed before in other videos, and the cloister, Klostersatz. So the place of the cloisters where the church was, that vineyard site is called Klostersatz. And then at the top of that hill, right, the base of Kellerberg is where Klostersatz is. So going up the hill, still belonging to the church, was Kellerberg. And Kellerberg is an incredibly rare wine to find for a lot of them. They tend to be the most expensive wines in Austria, period. Mm-hmm. And it is because of the steepness of the slope and its rarity. They make very, very little. I'm pretty sure the Riesling from Pichler-Krutzler Kellerberg is, since 2019, it's been between 600 and 900 bottles a year. And that's it. That's all you get.
It's the southern facing.
It's actually not. It's southeast facing, so it's a little cooler than Leubenberg. And Leubenberg is the bomb.
Yep.
Leubenberg is the ripeness bomb. It is a sugar bomb. It is the warmest.
Sugar bomb.
It is in its production.
Okay.
There's no sugar in the wine.
Right.
But you end up with higher alcohol contents. And you also end up with really rich mouthfeel. Very big, powerful, fruity, really ripe fruit. I mean, we're talking about some of the juiciest, biggest, longest aging wines in Austria are going to come from Leubenberg. They are your favorite.
They are.
Yeah. So,
usually the most expensive is my favorite. This one is
fortunately for you, it's not.
The second.
It's not even. Not even. It's like the third most expensive. Lucky you.
Lucky you.
Yeah, fair enough. Those two are very, very important. Obviously, there are the flatter land vineyard sites, Dürnstein, which is basically a lot of the vineyard sites along the river, leading into the town of Dürnstein. Klostersatz, which we already discussed, which is kind of on a good drainage slope at the bottom of the hill of Kellerberg. And then in the Revand is again similar. It's a little bit higher in elevation on primary rock, but not at the top of the hill.
Pfaffenberg.
And then you move to Pfaffenberg. And Pfaffenberg is very important because the thing that makes it interesting is that Pfaffenberg is actually not in Wachau. It's the border spot. So Pfaffenberg actually technically is in Kemptthal. No, Kemptthal? Kremstal. Pfaffenberg is in Kremstal. It is the defining border between Wachau to the, I'll say to the left of, facing away from the river, from facing the hill from the river. To the left is Wachau. To the right is going to be Kremstal. So if south is this way, that is
okay.
East.
I do
East.
like never eat shredded wheat,
so
you don't want to trust
east.
me on geography.
So yeah, facing east up the valley is going to be Wachau, and going west along the river is going to be Kremstal. And Pfaffenberg is the defining spot. And the cool thing about that is that technically you really are on the same soil, because we can show you here. I'll show you a clip. This is a view from the top of Pfaffenberg, looking down the valley over top of the new winery, looking down the valley along the Danube. So you can have a look, and you can see exactly what I'm talking about. How do you define the difference between this and the vineyard Steinerl, which is right next door, but is technically inside the Wachau Valley? But I mean, it's
the same.
You can spit from one to the other. That's how close they are. So those are so close, but under different denominational rules. And it doesn't really matter that much, because they can't be classified because of the Burgenland thing. So the newest vineyard site is called Rothenhof. And Rothenhof is going to be a really interesting one. Rothenhof is is where they've just built their new winery, and where Eric has decided that he wants to become the first Austrian winemaker to make Cabernet Franc. So they are planting Cabernet Franc on the roof of the winery. And the winery goes deep into the hill, and they have planted on top of it a vineyard site, a very small vineyard site of Cabernet Franc.
We were there when he was just planting those.
Those when they were just finishing, the soil for that area, because the actual barrel cellar and the production cellar and all that is underneath the vineyard, inside the hill.
Hey, Eric, Elizabeth, we're coming for that guest room.
So this place is fantastic. If you ever have the opportunity, it is the newest winery and tasting area in the Wachau Valley, and you should really check it out. It is one of the most stunning things you'll ever see in your lifetime. It is the most incredible blend between the most ultra modern aesthetic in a 16th century building.
Shell.
It is so old and so new all at the same time. It's absolutely fantastic. Definitely want to check it out. If you're there, call ahead, let them know you're coming, make an appointment to go and taste some of these wines, because it's really amazing. If you're ever in the region, so just a quick little bit of geography. So
because that's our strong point today.
Apparently. So the city of Vienna is only 45 minutes away by car. Like driving, 45 minutes, maybe 50 minutes, depending on traffic. But traffic is not usually ever really bad. You could make a day trip of it, go and go back without any issues at all. Very, very easy to do. So if you're visiting,
are great.
Yeah, exactly. The highway is fantastic, very low traffic, easy to get to. Just follow the river. Follow the river. It's a spectacular place. If you do have an opportunity and you could take a couple of days, then even better. Take a couple of days and explore that area a little bit. Within 7 minutes, you go from the Wachau through the Kremstal into Kemptthal, and that whole area. I mean, if you want to take a little bit farther, another 10 minutes, 15 minutes, then you're into Wagram. I mean, this is some of the best wines in the world. It literally is our favorite place for wine on the planet, especially for white wine, really, specifically.
And like we always say, wine doesn't come from ugly places.
No, it's really tremendous. And as you've seen in a couple of the slides that we've shown you, this place is absolutely spectacular. It's absolutely stunning. So you definitely want to check out this region. A little bit about the winemaking style. Erick he's kind of an old-fashioned winemaker when it comes to the style that he does in the Wachau, and I love that. I have become such a fan of people who are going back to the way wine was made in the 80s and the early 90s, before everything started to turn into alcohol bombs and these big, huge, powerful wines. I want to go back as far as you can into acidity. I want to go back and taste soil, alcohol levels that are lower, and really explore the soil and the terroir of these wines, which you can do a lot better when the wines have more acidity and when they're a little bit lighter in alcohol. Some of the really, really cool things about this winery is that they never fine it, they never filter it, they don't use any commercial yeast. It's only the live strain yeast that is on the grape skins at the time of harvest. Obviously, no chaptalization. There's no sugar ever added to any of these wines in order to boost fermentation. They always use for the large scale batching of the bigger wines, they always use Stockinger barrels. So the Foudre, it's kind of like an oval shape. I think I have a picture. We could put up a shape. We could put up a picture of the shape of the Foudre, and you can see how it's kind of like this tall oval, anywhere from 500 liters to 2,000 liters, depending on the size of the production of the barrel. The cool thing is this is Austrian oak, so it's from where it comes from, and that's really, really cool. And that's where they do long lees aging, is inside these barrels for the bigger wines. So
we actually had the opportunity to have the Gruner Veltliner, the Dernstein, right out of the vat.
It was only 3 days. It's still only 3 days into fermentation.
It wasn't great.
It's just an interesting.
It's nice
interesting to see how it transports itself from that kind of sweet, cloudy, kind of high acid, kind of unbalanced weirdness that it is during fermentation into something really truly beautiful. Especially when you think about how cloudy and I think I have a picture of it, so we could put up a picture of it right here. You could see it in the glass. It's incredibly cloudy, quite bubbly because it's still fermenting. That into what is in the glass, like beautifully clear, amazing, but with no filter, no fining, just naturally. It's really amazing. So some of the cool things about this wine, their Gruner Veltliners tend to be a fantastic representation of what Gruner Veltliner actually should be. Quite spicy, peppery,
white pepper,
but still really, really approachable. Like that wonderful flavor of like vineyard white peaches and apricots with that white pepper, that fefferel that is so classic and great Gruner Veltliner.
I find the fefferel much more prominent in the FX Pichler than I do in the Pichler-Krutzler. Yeah, because these just seem a lot more kind of fruitful,
rounded, a little rounder.
Not quite as.
I always talk to people when they ask the differences between them, and I always say, for us, that the Pichler-Krutzler wines are made for everyone.
Yeah.
FX Pichler, while probably some of the most extraordinary wine on earth,
amazing,
is not necessarily for everyone. It is not for a beginner. I find that those wines are for wine purists, wine experts, people who really can understand the complexity and the tension that are in those wines. And they are extraordinary wines. But these wines can be appreciated if you know nothing. And that's something that I really love about the approach that they have here. Erick's approach is really interesting in that he makes it so easily accessible for everybody to understand them.
Or you don't need to understand what went behind it. You just know it's
delicious
product.
Exactly. Another cool one is coming off of Pfaffenberg. There is a whole section of the Pfaffenberg vineyard that is called Alte Reben, and these are old vines. So the wine comes from vines that are only over 65 years in age. We're talking about seriously concentrated Riesling wine, that whole vineyard peach and apricot on a huge level with massive amounts of minerality, growing on primary rock on the side of Pfaffenberg.
And when you have Gruner, Veltliner, and Riesling next to each other, those vineyards kind of play off each other. They help each other.
Yeah. And we learned that, and we'll talk about it in another video when we really go into depth with it. But a Gruner Veltliner vineyard is almost always below a Riesling vineyard because Riesling can grow on primary rock. And as the rain and water basically hits the soil of a Riesling vineyard, the minerality of that washes down into the loess soil that Gruner can grow on, because Gruner likes a more vibrant soil in order for it to actually grow properly. But without being fed the minerals off of a Riesling vineyard, they tend to be kind of one-dimensional, a little bit plain. So that's what makes the Wachau so interesting, is you go along this whole ridge of very steep primary rock slopes that all lead down with the raw water runoff into high quality Gruner vineyards that are along the bottom. They're taking all that minerality from the water.
Kind of like the white vermouth that goes in the martini glass before you make a martini.
Yeah, and then dump it and then just drink straight vodka. Another thing that I want to touch on is the historical generational part of this. Obviously, FX took over the winery from his father. Lucas has taken over from FX. And Elizabeth now off on her own. But we have to talk about this. This is Louisa. This is Eric and Elizabeth's daughter. From the stories that we've heard, this was kind of given to her as a project that she started to undertake. She was very young, like incredibly young to be able to do this. She has a section of the Pfaffenberg vineyard that has her own to deal with, but she has to do everything. And that means, pruning and vineyard management, harvest, vinification, bottling, everything has to be done for her wines on her own, including, the marketing and sales and
all the decisions,
and including remitting your own taxes for your sales of your wine. That kind of a vibe. Like, it is a full-on project to really learn how to run the family winery, which I'm quite sure that she will probably start taking on in the not too distant future, now that she's finished school and is now old enough to probably really get deep into it. But I mean, this bottle here, this is the newest one. This is 2024. This was her fourth vintage. And I think I just bought every bottle available. And it is...
I mean, if you're talking about a bottled story,
this one is... It is absolutely... Yeah. We opened this bottle for all of the sommeliers across the country at a big tasting that we did in the shop one day. And every single person wanted it for their list.
Yeah.
Every single person. And I'm like, yeah. Nope. I mean, they don't make that much. I mean, it's just a couple hundred bottles are ever made every year. There's no way to actually put this wine out there. But the story, the quality, this wine is 0.0 grams of sugar. It's absolutely extraordinary. It's wet grass and scone funky. And funk and pink pencil eraser and apricots and slightly unripe peach. It is absolutely bonkers good. Like, if you are a wine nerd, this is a wine that will set your life on fire. It's absolutely incredible. And Louisa, if you are watching this video, and you saw a very large uptick in weird guys from the Bahamas who were trying to follow you on Instagram, that was because we were telling them who you were and who made this incredible wine that we all love so much. And blue. It's just, the packaging's amazing. The little slap across the front with her name, that is actually just a mimic of a big harvest bin that she'd actually painted that. And this is Louisa's bin in the winery, which we did get an opportunity to see when we were there. And so they mimicked that and put it on the labels. And this vintage does not, it actually just says Kremstall on it. It doesn't say Pfaffenberg on it anymore, but it comes from the Pfaffenberg vineyard. And I still have a little bit, not very much, like, and I probably won't sell that. I'll probably drink it all, of the 2023 vintage. And then 2024, there's a little bit left, and I just ordered all that was left of the new vintage. So definitely you want to get your hands on some of that if you want to try something unique and different.
We had talked about at the beginning of this of the food-friendly part of these wines and the different styles between sort of screw cap fresh and the little bit more aged cork. Every food style you can imagine works with it. Roasted beef, roasted chicken, fried food, raw food, cheese,
sashimi, sushi,
and a fresh Gruner Veltliner.
Oh my goodness!
Or the Riesling.
Off the charts, absolutely off the charts. Yeah. Like if you have a sushi restaurant and you don't have one of these high-end Gruner Veltliners on your wine list, you are missing the boat. Yeah. Like you need a Gruner Veltliner like this, a high mineral Gruner Veltliner on your wine list, especially by the glass. Something that people can get their hands on and try it with sushi and sashimi. Notes, and it's got that classic spice, ginger. It's absolutely unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. So I think we'll just kind of leave it with that. Those of you who are interested, leave a comment below. Let us know what you want to, what more you want to know about these guys, and we can do a follow-up video as well. We'll be there in this coming September for the Single Vineyard Summit, which will be going back to judge again this year. And we'll be doing some footage. We'll do a quick tour of the vineyards and of the new winery, so you get an idea of what it looks like and stuff, and we'll add that on here. But for those of you who want to try these wines, you can try 5 vintages side by side in a tasting in our shop of almost every vineyard and almost every wine that they produce. It is really one of our absolute favorite wines in the world. Yeah. And we're super, super happy that we can bring these wines to everybody here in the Bahamas. And for you at home, ask your local wine shop, your local, you got to go to a cool, if you've got a funky wine shop that you know of, if they don't have it, ask them to get it, because it really is extraordinary stuff. And you're going to find great value in these wines, even if they might be a little bit more expensive than some of the non-Wachau, more mainstream wines. But again, and we say this in every episode, when you buy wines like this, you're buying from one tiny family. You are supporting an entire family. And that is really, really important to us. This is not going through a company or anything. Like if you call up the winery, Elizabeth's going to answer the phone. If you email, Elizabeth answers the email. It's not like there is a team of people that you have to go through in order to get something accomplished. Like and sometimes it's not Elizabeth, sometimes it's Eric, depending on who's taking the kids to soccer practice or you know, it really is one of the coolest small family wineries that we work with.
And we sat there one afternoon
in their backyard
between Elizabeth and Eric, and she was going to do this with the kids and he was going to do this with the wine, and then she went for here and
we were right there in the middle of harvest, so it was a busy time, and they still made the time to sit with us for the whole afternoon in their backyard and drink wine, and I could not ask for a better thing in my life than that. And so I hope you all get an opportunity to actually take that on and get that experience and really learn more of their story and ask them. You know, you can really, really learn more when you actually drink the wine with the winemakers. And I really enjoyed this one. This was one of my favorites so far. So those of you,
we better cheers soon.
You're running out of wine, and I have been talking too much, so I haven't got a chance to drink. So I'm going to have a drink, and we're going to go and unbottle another story. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.